How's it, everyone? Welcome to another racket review right here on OpenCourt. So today I'm reviewing another head racket that when this racket was first announced a little while ago, I was very excited to get my hands on this because this particular sub-model never existed in this head racket lineup, and I finally got my hands on it, so I'm very excited to today be reviewing the head Auxetic Extreme Tour. Let's check it out. So I'd like to give another quick shout out to On Point Sports right here on the island of Oahu in the state of Hawaii. They were gracious enough to once again let me borrow this racket to test. They have an awesome selection of amazing tennis products. So if you guys are ever on Oahu, check out On Point Sports for all your sports related needs. So the Extreme line has been around for a while, and it is one of my favorite lineups in the head family of rackets because it is the spin oriented line. As you guys can probably see from the paint job here, this bright neon yellow, it is the main competitor to the Babolat Pure Aero, which is also Babolat's spin lineup. So I used to use the Extreme Pro back in the first generation of the graphene days, and I really liked that racket. But when this new tour was announced, I was very excited because this features the smallest head size in the Extreme family, and it's supposed to be a little bit more control oriented and feel oriented than the Pro or the MP, which has a little bit too much power in my opinion. So this is the second generation of the Extreme Tour. The first one came out with the Graphene 360 Plus Extreme Tour, which I never tried. So this is my first time trying the Extreme Tour. What's new with this update? Obviously, this has been updated with the Auxetic technology in the yoke over here. I've explained Auxetic a number of times, so I'm not gonna reiterate that, but it has been incorporated into this new Extreme Tour. Also, another defining feature of the Extreme lineup is the spin grommets, which are located up at the top over here. They're larger funnel-shaped grommets, very similar to what the Babolat Pure Aero uses, which allows for more free-form movement of the string. So this is obviously meant to increase string movement and snapback to facilitate that extreme spin. And lastly, along with the Auxetic technology, this retains the Graphene 360 Plus, so it features graphene at the 12 o'clock as well as the sides at 3 and 9 and the throat over here for better weight distribution and a more stable and powerful feel. So let's take a quick look at the specs of this Extreme Tour, and you'll see why I'm super excited to try this racket for the first time. As you guys can see, this is a 98 square inch. So the Extreme line has never seen a 98, it's always been 100. So the 98 is my ideal head size, so I was very excited for this, as well as featuring a thinner beam at 22, 23, 21. Kind of similar beam thickness to the new Radical lineup, so it's supposed to get a little bit more control, which I always thought the Extreme lineup needed. It also has a medium stiffness, and the swing weight is relatively light. It has a decent amount of heft in terms of the static weight, but because of its headlight balance, this should swing through the air pretty quickly, which is getting me excited. Alright, so that does it for the overview of the new Extreme Tour. I'm super excited to get this on the court. So without further ado, let's jump on the court and see how this plays. Alright guys, I'm here on court with the head Auxetic Extreme Tour. I'm super excited about this playtest because the Extreme has never had a tour. It's never had a 98 square inch. So I think this is gonna add some much needed control to the already powerful and spin oriented Extreme line. So let's get on the court and see how this plays. Wow. Okay, so just from these first couple of hits, I feel that the racket still retains that power of the Extreme. It does feel a little bit stiff, which I think might bother some people, but it doesn't hurt my arm. I actually like that stiffness. I can really feel the strings, the ball sinking into the strings. Yeah, 315 millimeter balance, but it definitely feels a lot head lighter than the balance would indicate. That surgical 98 square inch, I feel this thing gets a lot more control than the Extreme Pro of years past. But it still packs that punch and great spin.
So far what stands out to me is just the dwell time is really good. I feel the ball really sinking into the strings. I think that has something to do with the spin grommets. I think the strings are really moving out of place a lot more, which allows the ball to sit on the strings just slightly longer. Oh my God, the slice. That feels awesome. Man, even when I take full swings, it has a relatively high launch angle, but the ball is diving down at the last second. It's like barely landing inside the court, which is what I want because I'm an aggressive player. I think a lot of advanced players will appreciate the Extreme Tour's new spec. Yeah, the ball is dropping at the last second, so it's getting that top spin that I want. I can hit low dipping top spin too. This racket feels great from the baseline so far. A nice solid stick. I like the long handle of the Extreme on my two-handed backhand. Makes it feel nice and solid. Man, the control is excellent. I'm taking huge swings and it's all staying inside the lines. I'm excited to play with this in a match. Oh, wow. Wow, this racket is solid. It is pretty powerful at the net, which is kind of like what I expected because the previous Extreme Pro is pretty powerful. This is nice and solid. I really feel the strings, the ball rather, sinking into the string bed. The strings are really giving way. Probably because of the spin grommet is allowing the strings to move more than a typical racket. But I like that dwell time. It is a little bit trampoline-y. I think the ball really shoots off the string bed because of that extra string movement, which means I just gotta be disciplined. On the low volley, I really just have to block it and it goes back deep. The high volleys and the reflex volleys are the ones I'm a little worried about. Yeah, like that one long. I can't get away with a big swing with this at the net. I gotta really just block it in front. Oh yeah, even that low volley almost went out. Yeah, but when I strike it in the center, it feels great. I just gotta keep a small backswing. Wow, it does get good underspin though. If I have time to just kind of set my racket in position and then slice it. Yeah, I can really see the ball sliding. Yeah, I like the headlight maneuverability of it. It's just the high balls are what I'm worried about because I feel like I'm gonna send some long, even on the low volleys, if I'm not careful with my follow through. Oh, like that went long. I definitely like this racket better from the baseline. That's not to say it's horrible at the net, but I feel a little bit uncomfortable that I'm gonna send it long if I'm not careful. I don't worry about that at all from the baseline because of the top spin. Yeah, it's good. I like it overall.
So I just got done with my playtest of the Head Auxetic Extreme Tour, and I can't stop gushing about this racket. I really, really like this. This is the best Extreme I have ever used in my life, and many reasons why I'll get into in a bit, but this was definitely a lot more controlled than the previous generations of the Extreme. I used mostly the Pro. This feels very different from it, and I really, really enjoyed this combination of spin, power, and control. Seamless would be an understatement. I really enjoyed this racket, so let's get into the pros of the Head Auxetic Extreme Tour. So starting out with the pros of the Head Auxetic Extreme Tour, I'm just gonna get this out of the way. This is my favorite Extreme that I've ever played with. I really liked the Graphene Extreme Pro back in the day, but that required me to string a stiff poly at a pretty high tension to corral that power. This racket still has incredible power, obviously, because it's an Extreme racket. With the introduction of this new Tour with its brand new specs, its 98 square inch head, its slightly thinner beam, and its weight and balance where it's at, it has an incredible amount of control for an extreme racket. It just has incredible all-around playability from all areas of the court. It has great control on full swings, but it has good pace and power as an extreme should have. It really gave me that extreme confidence from all areas of the court, whether I was playing from the baseline in a ground stroke rally, or I was stepping in to attack returns, or I was trying to pressure my opponents by getting up to the net, hitting volleys low and deep at their feet, or trying to take command of the point by aiming for the corners with my serves or hitting kick serves that would pull my opponent off the court, or even just playing defense with this racket. Everything was just a joy from all areas of the court. The extreme really made me feel connected to the ball, and it made me feel confident that I could hit every single shot in my arsenal the way I wanted to hit them. This racket has incredible dwell time. That's attributed to the spin grommets. Because the grommet holes are so big, the strings actually displace and move a lot more than your average racket, and that's why the ball feels like it's sitting on the string bed slightly longer than when I use a different racket. And because of that, I felt incredibly connected to the ball, and those spin grommets provided a lot of spin. On my full ground strokes, I really noticed that top spin. When I was hitting those high arcing deep forehands, I noticed that I was able to push my opponents back on the court. And on the kick serves, honestly, I usually use my kick serve just to set up to get up to the net, but with this kick serve, if I hit it perfectly, I was getting it to land right by the sideline, and it rarely even came back. And sometimes I hit some kick serve aces off my second serves that I could never do with, say, my Speed Pro. It's hard to pinpoint a favorite shot with this racket because I loved it on pretty much everything, but serving, I think, is the highlight of this. Serving with this racket is a joy, and it's so much fun. I could paint the corners with my kick serve, I could paint the sidelines, I could also hit booming flat serves down the tee, as well as slice serves out wide on the deuce side to pull my opponent off the court. I felt in total command on my service games. The extreme line is also known for being pretty head light, and I definitely felt that with this. It was very maneuverable at the net, but it also provided good put away power. Anything above my shoulders I was able to put down and win easy points at the net. Also, I liked it on my two-handed backhand because the extreme line has a slightly longer handle compared to the other rackets in the head lineup, and the shape of the head size, it's actually more ovular, so the mains are actually kind of long. So that definitely helped with the power and the consistency on my two-handed backhand, and I loved hitting backhand ground strokes. Not just backhand, even forehands were awesome with this racket. So I think the Extreme Tour was a great addition to the Extreme line. The Extreme already provides incredible amounts of power and spin, but I felt like the previous generations of the MP and the Pro were just a little too powerful for a lot of advanced players. I've always liked the Extreme line, and I think this Tour is a great addition to this lineup. It gives the Extreme line that much needed control, and because of that, I felt so confident with this racket from all areas of the court, and it's my favorite Extreme that I've ever used to date. Next, let's get into the cons of the Extreme Tour. There isn't really much. Number one, I only used this racket for about a week and a half, but I could already tell if it's anything like the Babla Pure Aeroline or any of these spin grommet rackets, this is going to eat through strings very quickly. I could really feel the strings displacing and snapping back on the spin-oriented shots, which is nice, but obviously this is going to create more friction burn, and it's going to cause your strings to snap a lot faster. So be careful if you're using a softer poly or a thinner gauge. I believe the Auxetic Extreme Tour is going to eat up strings faster than other rackets that don't have these wide grommet holes that causes a lot of string movement. Secondly, because of the combination of the maneuverability as well as the easy power at the net, I had to be a little bit more disciplined at the net, meaning I had to shorten up my swing, make sure not to get too anxious. I was able to get the racket in position quickly, but also I sometimes tended to overswing, especially on those first volleys when I was approaching the net. The low volley, I really just had to block it back, and most of those ended up going deep in the court. If I swung too much, or even on the high putaways, if I caught it just a split second late, they would fly out. So just at the net, I just had to be a little bit more disciplined than I would usually like to, but this could be fixed with a little bit of weight in the head to give it a little bit more stability and help me to keep a compact swing. Also, leading into my third con is that it is a bit unstable because of the shape of the head. The Extreme Tour has a longer head shape from the 12 to the 6 o'clock position, so the vertical axis. So it has great power on those serves and the ground strokes, but it's actually a little bit narrow on the horizontal axis from 3 to 9 o'clock, so that's why it lacks a little bit of torsional stability. It can be a little bit unstable. So if you're an advanced player that plays against a lot of heavy hitters or a lot of heavy spin hitters, you need something that's a little bit more stable. This can definitely be remedied by putting some tape at the 3 and 9 position, counterbalancing that with some weight under the handle. The Extreme Tour's specs being where it's at leaves a lot of room for customization, and I think a lot of advanced players are going to want to tinker with this. But even in stock form, I think it plays great. It's just a little bit unstable because of the shape of the head, but because of that, it does get more power on the serves and the ground strokes. So lastly, who is the Head Auxetic Extreme Tour for? It's for players who want easy spin and power, but also want some level of control. I know a lot of advanced players who find the Pro or the MP too powerful. I use the Graphene Extreme Pro as well as the Graphene Touch Extreme MP. Those were rocket launchers really, and I had to string it up tight with a stiff poly. I know a lot of players don't want to be forced to use a stiff poly in the high 50 tension, which is what I was doing. Thankfully, I don't have arm problems, but the Extreme Tour gives you the option of getting that control in the Extreme package with that power and spin without having to string it so tight. So I think a lot of players will like this Extreme Tour. I think this racket is a great doubles racket. It's a great serve and volley racket because it suits aggressive swings more than the speed or the radical line. I think the speed and radical shine from the baseline, so those are more geared towards singles. I think the Extreme line, especially this Tour, is a great serve and volley racket, and a lot of players will enjoy it in doubles. I know I certainly did. So this new Head Auxetic Extreme Tour is one of the best head rackets that I've tried in recent memory. It's definitely my favorite of the Extremes that I've tried ever. And I think Head did a good job at introducing a slightly more control-oriented version of the Extreme, and I can't wait to try more iterations of this racket. Thank you for watching this review of the Head Auxetic Extreme Tour right here on OpenCourt. Be sure to check out On Point Sports if you're curious to try this racket or many other rackets. They have a vast collection of demo rackets and strings, so be sure to check out On Point Sports. If you guys like this content and want to see more like it, be sure to overhead smash that like and subscribe button, and I'll see you on an open court.